Good day, everyone. We are Group 6, and today we are going to talk about mental health. Mental health and mental illness is a topic that used to be very taboo and had a lot of stigma to it. Nowadays, mental health is a more comfortable topic to talk about, and is even discussed in many schools all over the world through seminars and talks. In the Catholic Church, mental health falls under the theme of life and dignity of the human person and Catholic social teachings. This proclaims that human life is sacred and that the dignity of the human person is the foundation of moral vision for society. The rise of people who are diagnosed with mental illnesses shows the importance of taking care of one's mental health or just mental health awareness in general. There are many different classifications of mental illnesses, with examples such as depression and anxiety. These two in particular are very prevalent in teens like us, and they are what we are going to talk about today.
Hi, my name is John Christian Espiritu, and I'm going to talk about depression. First, the C experience, Macedonas. On the surface, it's easy to think that depression is merely a symptom for very sad, and that one can simply just get over it after a while. If it was really that easy, then how come it's become one of the most common illnesses affecting people worldwide? First, let's cover the facts. According to WebMD, depression is a mood disorder that makes one feel either constant or episodic sadness or disinterest in life. Not to be confused with typical grief that most people experience, depression is a lifelong problem that affects the daily lives of people suffering from it, and it's most commonly caused by family history, childhood trauma, brain structure, medical conditions, or hormonal imbalances. A blend of both biological and circumstantial conditions. Other than being sad for a long period of time, other symptoms of depression include feeling tired, worthless, and hopelessness. It can also become difficult to concentrate, remember things, and make decisions. And it can also manifest by having too much or too little sleep and energy, and you might also see a drastic change in weight. As we can see, depression can range from mild to severe, and it's not uncommon for other mental illnesses to come along with it. They're like friends. Other mental illnesses that come with depression include anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder (OCD), panic disorders, phobias, substance abuse disorders, and eating disorders. Fortunately, I've not personally experienced depression, but sadly the same cannot be said for some of the friends I made back in high school. My earliest experience was with my seatmate, who had clinical depression in 7th grade. She was developing it, I guess. And her parents were going through a messy divorce, and the problems at home affected her school life socially and academically, as well as her physical health, with thoughts like, do I deserve to eat today? I probably wouldn't have been able to hear all this if I didn't take my time to listen and take her seriously, which might not have been the case for the other people with whom she tried to open up to. My other friends and I encouraged her to talk to the guidance counselor, and she finally got the treatment and professional help she needed after a while. Now I don't speak with her that often. She still has depressive episodes once in a while, but I'm glad that she's finally surrounded herself with people who are supportive and make her life a bit more positive. As of 2020 globally, there are approximately 264 million people of all ages who suffer from clinical depression, with more women being affected compared to men. It's the 10th leading cause of early death among teens and is linked to suicide, the second leading cause. Just by looking at the numbers, it's obvious that depression is no joke and should be taken seriously. The main problem that people with depression face is getting treatment in the first place. Once surrounded by people who aren't aware of depression as an illness, cries for help can easily be mistaken for being overly dramatic or making up things. In fact, in the olden days, mental illness would often be mistaken for demonic possession or a witch's curse. Luckily nowadays, we have become more aware of it and can better identify people who start showing symptoms, which is why reported cases have been going up in recent years. Clinical depression needs to be treated by a professional, and it's often hard for people to get help when surrounded by people who continue to believe in the stigma against mental health. A lot of depressed people will try to hide or deny their symptoms as not to be seen as weird, weak, or a burden to the other people in their life in any other way. When unrecognized and untreated, depression can get worse and even lead to suicide. Next, let's talk about analysis reflection, or study nilai. As the years go by, more and more people are being diagnosed with depression. For comparison, from 2005 to 2015, the number of cases have increased by a fifth. At a glance, this looks like terrible news. Perhaps it was caused by the advent of social media and technology? But don't be so quick to judge. It turns out suicide rates from depression have been going down steadily during the past few years. This is because more and more people are being diagnosed, and therefore being treated as well. While depression isn't completely curable, psychiatrists have developed a variety of treatments that can reduce symptoms and give control back to their patients. In poorer countries though, such as the Philippines, health education can be lacking, and when it comes to discussing and creating awareness for mental health such as depression. If a lot of people aren't aware of its symptoms, then more often will signs of depression go overlooked and unnoticed. Even when spotted, it's still difficult for people to get treated in a low-income economy. A lot of people simply just don't have the funds necessary to meet with a psychiatrist every week.
Hi, I'm Angelica Alcala, and I am here to talk about the part 3 of depression, which is the commitment action or committed action, Tayakilos. As previously discussed, depression is still a big problem for a lot of people suffering from it. It's not just going to magically go away, so we need to take the necessary actions to make life a little better for disabled. As an individual, we can help people with depression by simply being there for them as a friend. Being open to listening to their problems and showing kindness will definitely help them feel less alone in the world. Though it's important to keep in mind that we don't want to treat them differently and cause discomfort. Be sensitive to their needs and understand where they are coming from. As a community, on the other hand, spreading mental health awareness can help others stop symptoms in their friends and loved ones. While awareness alone isn't enough to completely resolve it, it's a substantial step in the right direction. By normalizing the discussion of mental health and removing the stigma, it can help people to recognize and accept their illness, which will hopefully encourage them to seek help and get treated. I believe that if these steps are taken, people will suffer less from depression and be able to better live their lives. With the brain being one of the most complex part of the body, it's not surprised that scientists are still scratching their heads trying to figure out a permanent cure, since it will probably be that way for a while. We have to try our best to be more inclusive, thoughtful, and sensitive towards the people around us.
Hello, I am Jaimee Aquino and I'll be talking about anxiety. The first part is the C experience or danos of anxiety. Anxiety can be caused by an event or an activity that makes you nervous or worrisome. This term is synonymous with worry, fear, or unease. Anxiety is often a reaction to stress, however, it can still possibly happen even with no concrete stressors around. Anxiety is our brain's way of reacting to stress and alerting you of potential dangers. Anxiety is considered normal to a certain extent, although it can be considered a mental health issue if a person begins to frequently feel acute levels of anxiety. Anxiety can induce physical changes such as increased blood pressure, rapid heart rate, palpitations, and chest pain. As adolescents, we are often plagued by worrisome and nerve-wracking experiences. May it be the changes happening physically and emotionally, or it may also be the pressure to grow up and prepare to become a high-functioning member of the society. Therefore, anxiety is prevalent amongst us. Everyone can feel and experience anxiety, for anxiety generally comes from stress, and all humans experience such. Naturally, people feel anxious every time they are faced with problems or before making big decisions. One reason that anxiety has become more evident is the rise of social media. The Generation Z are all frequent users of these platforms and they are exposed to near perfect lives. Because of this, they are pressured to live up to these standards they see in the media, not knowing that the material shown in each person's feed are just the superficial and positive captures of their daily lives. Hence, teenagers begin comparing themselves with one another, which in turn induces anxiety. The pandemic has been another reason as to why the number of people who experience anxiety has reached an all-time high. The quarantine that had to be implemented to keep the virus under control has impacted each one of us negatively, not just in terms of the economy and the lost jobs, but as well as the mental health of each person. This is because of the uncertainty and the feeling of unease knowing that there is a virus out there that can be lethal. Number 2, analysis, reflection, or critical reflection, or suri nilay of anxiety. Despite the confusions and uncertainties with the causes of anxiety, doctors have considered traumatizing life events can trigger these disorders. Anxiety disorders may also be inherited. There is a type of anxiety called social anxiety disorder. People who experience this have social phobia. This is when one feels overly self-conscious and self-aware with themselves in social settings. This type of anxiety causes people to be socially inept. Another cause of anxiety can be when one person is separated from their comfort person. This is called separation anxiety. There are also external factors of anxiety. One could be stress at work, stress at school, stress in interpersonal relationships, financial stress, stress from global occurrences or political issues, stress from uncertainties, and emotional trauma from a loss of a loved one. Anxiety is not fully a bad thing. It exists for a positive reason as well. Anxiety helps alert us with potential dangers around us or in the future. It helps us feel a sense of urgency, thus allowing us to accomplish and complete important tasks that contribute to our communities. It also protects us as well. It makes us aware of situations that can be harmful to us so that we can avoid it. Anxiety can be detrimental to people if it is blown out of proportion. As people say, anything too much is bad. People who experience anxiety with no definite reason must already seek professional help. Anxiety can also be a hindrance to people taking up challenges and opportunities, thus growth becomes stagnant. As stated before, anxiety is completely human and inevitable. It is our natural instinct to feel such, worried to protect us from instances that our brain rules out to be dangerous. However, when experienced at a higher than normal level, this becomes a disorder which people should not turn a blind eye to. Anxiety disorders will remain to plague people who are victims to this and will remain so if society continues to view this as a stigmatized topic. Our faith teaches us that we must surrender all our worries and anxieties to God. In the Bible verse 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 7, it states, "Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you." Our faith teaches us that when you look at the bigger picture, God is the only thing that matters, and in every struggle that we face, God will always be by our side and care for our well-being. The church acknowledges that anxiety is something that's normal and innate, and they urge that people place their full trust in God instead of worrying about themselves because God always has solution, and His plan for us is much greater than our worries, whether we know of this plan or not. Despite the seemingly simple solution, most people find it difficult to place their full trust and faith in God when it comes to anxieties, especially those concerning our uncertain future.
Now moving on to commitment action or tayakilos, what needs to be done to resolve the situation? Since anxiety is something completely normal and human, it's important to first establish that everyone can encounter anxiety. People should never take anxiety as a joke, but instead spread its awareness so that others can be better informed about its nature, causes, effects, and how to cope with it. Much like with most problems, providing support to those experiencing anxiety can help them in coping with this. We should not let these people feel isolated, detached, or alone, but instead make them understand that it's normal to have anxiety and that there are people willing to comfort and support them. It's also important to accept your own anxieties and what triggers them so that you can learn to cope with them. Promoting things like short breaks, either in the classroom or workplace, exercise, as well as meditation can help in keeping a balanced and focused mind and body. We hope that those who consider the information we have presented, that they may be able to better accept themselves and their anxieties in order to cope with them. We also hope that people experiencing anxiety may be able to reduce the number of anxiety attacks they experience in order to live a more happy and fulfilling life. All these will help in attaining the future we envision, a future where the life and dignity of each person is upheld and preserved. Although anxiety is innate and there is no way of completely solving it, our aim is to advocate a society where each individual understands and helps one another in coping with anxiety, whenever or wherever it may be. It may take a while for anxiety awareness to spread or to see visible changes in society, but as long as people understand and consider these various information on anxiety and how to cope with it, as well as help others with it, then we may consider this successful.
Okay, so moving on to the conclusion, and in order to quickly recap, due to the changing times, people are beginning to accept the idea that maybe physical health might not be the only thing that a person should care about. The issue of mental health also plays a crucial role as part of becoming a healthier human being. Poor mental health can really cause one to devalue their life and even possibly commit suicide. And it has only continued to rise due to the events brought about by the pandemic. Because of our group's experience in the issue, we believe that this is a very relevant topic that needs to be given much attention in order to respond to the Catholic teaching of valuing one's life and dignity. Our group researched to propose several ways in order to tackle this issue and promote a healthier mental state. And in summary, this boils down to two major aspects that one must take in order to help those with mental health issues. The first of which is acceptance, because awareness is not enough. We must learn that this is something that should not be taken lightly. Second of which is support, for these issues can really cause one to feel isolated in their troubles. So, in conclusion, our group strongly asks that we as a community be more considerate towards those with mental health issues. Mental health issues are sensitive and can easily be triggered by the environment, which is why it is our duty as brothers and sisters to look out for each other to ensure that everyone is mentally healthy for a mentally healthier community as a whole. Thank you for listening, and these are our sources.